In the book Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck, the main characters are George and Lenny. George is a bit smaller and weaker, while Lenny is big and muscular. Although Lenny is big, he has a mental disability which plays a big part in this book. The story starts off with the two of them walking along a path. George reminds Lenny that they will be working on a new ranch, so he must listen to him. George does not want the same thing to happen as to what happened in Weed. Then it is brought up that Lenny's Aunt Clara gave pet mice to Lenny, but he snapped their necks trying to pet them. We now know that Lenny has no control over his own strength. They sit down and get ready for supper. Lenny asks George for ketchup, which led to George losing his temper and giving Lenny a big speech. He complained about how much better he would be off without Lenny. He brought up an incident that occurred at Weed. After calming down, George realizes that he shouldn't have taken his temper out on Lenny and cheers him up with a story about their future dream.
Lenny and George have finally reached their destination, the new ranch. They had arrived and met an old guy by the name of Candy who happens to have a missing hand. Candy shows George and Lenny around the ranch, telling where they'll work, what's going to happen, and what they'll do. They later meet the boss of the ranch. After the cover-up, we meet the boss's son, Curly, who is somewhat of a boxer and comes in with that tough and rugged mentality. When Candy leaves, he tells Lenny to never go near Curly, to try to avoid him. And if Curly touches Lenny, George wants Lenny to beat him up. If any bad things happen, they always had the safe spot by the brush. All of a sudden, Curly's wife entered the building, and Lenny noticed her first. The main goal that Lenny and George really want is to get the money and get a ranch in which they can own and live prosperously.
After a day of work, Slim and George head to the bunkhouse. They continue talking and Slim agrees to give a pup to Lenny. George thanks him. Slim replies with an appreciation of his own about George's friendship with Lenny. He talks about how it's nice to see that someone actually cares in this world. Lenny enters the bunkhouse carrying his puppy. George guilts him for taking the puppy away from his mother. Eventually, Candy and Carlson come in and Carlson begins complaining about Candy's dog.
It is a Saturday evening. Crooks sits on his bunk in the harness room. He's an African-American stable hand who has a crooked back. Lenny appears in the doorway and Crooks tells him to go away, saying that since he's black, he can't go into the white man's room, then neither can the white man come into his. Lenny doesn't understand what Crooks says, so he comes in anyways. Candy enters the room where Crooks insists on them taking him with them, but Curly's wife interrupts him and asks, "Where's her husband?" She asks them what happened to Curly's hand because they told her his hand got caught in a machine, but she doesn't believe them and started to tease Lenny about his bruises on his face. And as the white man left Crooks' room, he yells that, "I wouldn't want to go to no place like that." Hey George, hey Slim, say, either you guys got a slug of whiskey?
I'll be back in a few. What is that smell?
Dad, I've been around it for as long as I can remember. I smell nothing.
I can't stand him. Shoot him.
Well, hell! I had him for so long since he was a pup. I ain't shooting him.
Look, Candy, I might as well shoot him for you. If I suffer all the goddamn time, I would want to be shot too.
No, you can't.
Shoot him, and you won't notice a thing. Right in the back of the head. Hey, maybe I can just shoot him right now. Put him out of his misery. What do you say, Candy?
You ain't got no gun. Let's wait until tomorrow.
Alright, take him.
Won't even feel it. George just told me to not talk to you.
It's fine. All the ranch hands are occupied with their horseshoe tournament. You're safe to talk with me.